I don't have a performance problem at my job. I have a recognition problem. And for a long time, I had no idea. 2 years ago, I walked through those doors with the kind of drive that quietly unsettles managers who would never say so out loud. I picked up the workflows faster than anyone expected. I started pointing out gaps in processes that had been broken for years. I raised my hand for work that wasn't technically mine, and I delivered again and again. By the 8th month, my manager was writing a glowing mid-year review. By the 14th month, that same manager had quietly stopped putting my name into rooms where the decisions that mattered were being made. I hadn't slowed down. The system around me had simply adjusted. I'm Dre, and what I'm walking you through today is the part of the corporate story most people never see until it has already happened to them. There is a wall that effort alone cannot crack, and the reason is simple. The wall was never designed to measure effort. It was designed to measure how easy you are to manage. The better you perform without recognizing that distinction, the more invisible the wall becomes, until the day you sit across from your boss expecting movement and walk out holding the exact same title you had 18 months earlier. I know, because that day happened to me. What was happening to me wasn't an accident. It wasn't a gap in leadership training. It was a quiet, deliberate pattern, one that doesn't appear in any handbook, never gets named in a review cycle, but operates with mechanical precision inside nearly every mid to large company you can think of. I'm going to call it what it is: quiet containment. Once I could see it, I couldn't unsee it. The principle works like this. When an employee starts to outperform in ways that create discomfort upward, the system doesn't push back openly. It absorbs the energy sideways. The output keeps coming. The career stalls. Let me walk you through the 4 mechanisms it uses, because once you recognize them, you stop wondering why your effort isn't translating into anything that matters. Mechanism 1. The assignment pivot. I noticed early on that the monthly reporting workflow had redundant steps. Instead of being given the authority to fix it, I was handed something larger, slower, and structurally hopeless. A full audit of the reporting framework, due in 3 quarters, that everyone privately knew would produce a slide deck nobody would read. The job looked meaningful. The job was a holding pen. I stayed busy enough to stop asking for real ownership, and my manager bought the runway they needed. The trick of this mechanism is that it makes you feel trusted with something important. The reality is that you've been routed away from the smaller, faster wins that would have made your impact undeniable. Mechanism 2. The closed room. Strategy meetings happened. Quarterly reviews happened. Cross-team huddles where direction actually got set happened. I was rarely in any of them. Not because I lacked the depth. My manager knew full well I'd hold my own, but because my presence in those rooms created a different kind of risk. I asked the questions people would rather not have asked. I named the trade-offs others wanted to leave fuzzy. I made the people 2 layers above my manager uncomfortable in ways that would land back on the manager. So the door stayed closed. The invitation was always next quarter. I was performing at a high level for an audience that didn't have the authority to lift me. Mechanism 3. The disappearing name. I rebuilt a workflow that saved the department 2 days of manual work every single month. When my manager presented it in the next leadership review, the language was, the team identified an opportunity to streamline the process. Not Dre, the team. And here's the thing. I don't think it was even malicious. Plenty of managers narrate upward in collective terms out of pure reflex, because that's how they were trained to talk about their unit. But the consequence is the same. The work moves up the chain, and the name gets stripped along the way. In an organization where promotions require someone above your boss to know who you are before the conversation even starts, work without a name attached is work that effectively does not exist. Mechanism 4. The unpaid promotion. This one is the most sophisticated of the four because it feels like progress. I started being given more informal weight. New hires were pointed in my direction for guidance. I became the person the team checked with before anything important went out the door. I was running point on initiatives without the title, the pay band, or the formal authority that should have come with the role. My manager got the leverage. The organization got a senior contributor at staff-level pricing. And I, because I was wired to take my work seriously, kept absorbing the load. I told myself the title was right around the corner. What was actually around the corner was a heavier version of the same arrangement, dressed up in slightly nicer language. An unpaid promotion is how companies extract executive output from junior payroll. I called it growth. The structure called it efficiency. Here is what makes this entire pattern so durable. It is completely deniable. When I finally walked into my manager's office and said I felt stuck, my manager had an answer ready before I'd finished the sentence. The reorg coming in Q3. The headcount freeze upstairs. The vague encouragement to keep showing up the way I had been. None of it was technically false. All of it was engineered to extend the timeline without committing to anything specific. I left that conversation feeling reassured. My manager left it having conceded nothing. And underneath all of it sits the deeper truth most managers will never say out loud. They are not the villain in this story. They are the rational actor. Managers are measured on team stability, delivery consistency, and retention. A high performer who outgrows their role and leaves the team becomes a cost, a recruiter fee, a ramp-up cycle, an empty seat that has to be explained upward. Companies do not reward a manager for promoting someone out of their team. They charge that manager for the vacancy. So the response the incentive structure quietly rewards is to keep the high performer producing while extending the timeline of their exit as long as possible. My ambition was never the problem. My ambition without organizational leverage was the problem. So once I figured this out, the question became practical. How do I move through this system without disappearing inside it? 3 things changed everything. First, I stopped making my ambition readable to the wrong audience. The day you tell your manager you want a promotion in 12 months, you have handed them a clock. They now know how long they have before this becomes a problem they need to actively manage. Take the timeline out of the conversation entirely. Replace it with a question. What is the single biggest pain point in this department that nobody owns end to end? Find it. Solve it. Don't telegraph the play in advance. Deliver the outcome instead. That moves you out of the category of employee with an agenda and into the category of employee who removes friction. Those 2 categories get treated very differently inside the same building. Second, I learned to write my own story upward. My manager wasn't carrying my name into rooms I couldn't enter. And here's the thing, I don't think it was sabotage. The story of my work just hadn't been packaged in a way that traveled easily. So I made it easy. After anything I shipped, I reduced it to 1 sentence that could survive without me in the room. Not, I helped improve reporting. Instead, I removed 2 days of manual work from every month-end close. Specifics travel. Generalities evaporate. Hand the people 2 levels up a sentence they can repeat in your absence because absence is exactly when it's going to matter most. And do this consistently. 1 sentence after every win, sent in a format that fits naturally into how your manager already communicates upward. Make your visibility a habit, not an event. Third, I built a real reason to exist one level above my manager. This is not the same as going around them. Promotions in most organizations are not decided by your direct boss. They are approved by your boss. The actual decision sits one floor higher. If that floor doesn't recognize your name when the list gets reviewed, your manager's recommendation can only carry you so far. I found an honest reason to be useful at that level, a cross-functional project that touched their priorities, a question only they could answer, a working relationship that had nothing to do with me wanting something from them in the short term. Be in their awareness before you ever need their vote. The moment you need it is the moment it's already too late to start building it. There is a fourth principle worth adding here, and it doesn't get talked about enough. Be willing to be inconvenient on purpose. Quiet containment thrives on agreeable high performers. The employee who never pushes back, never asks the harder question, never declines the unpaid promotion is the easiest employee to keep contained. You don't have to be combative, you just have to be willing to occasionally say, I'd like to understand what the path forward looks like, and then sit in the silence that follows without filling it. The system is calibrated for compliance. A small, professional refusal to play exactly the role you've been assigned changes the calculation in ways you'd be surprised by. Eventually, I stopped waiting to be discovered. I picked one persistent problem in my department, the kind everyone vented about in the hallway and nobody actually owned, and I fixed it over 6 weeks without announcing what I was doing. When it was finished, I wrote 2 sentences summarizing the outcome and sent it to my manager's manager as a project update, not as self-promotion. It went out under the cover of a meeting I had recently been pulled into for the first time. 3 months later, my name appeared on a short list I hadn't known existed. The system did not change. I changed where I was aiming inside it. Notice what I didn't do. I didn't complain. I didn't escalate. I didn't deliver an ultimatum about my career. I simply built a result, attached my name to it cleanly, and made sure it landed where it needed to land. That is the entire game. Here's what I want you to walk away with. The companies that benefit the most from high performers are not the ones that recognize them quickly. They are the ones that keep the path just murky enough that exceptional people stay productive while waiting for a moment the structure was never designed to produce on its own. Quiet containment isn't personal, it is structural. The day you understand that is the day you stop trying to outwork the ceiling and start engineering your way around it. Your output is not the argument. Your positioning is the argument. I learned that distinction the hard way after years of effort that didn't quite translate. You don't have to. If any of this hit close to home, if you have ever sat through a performance review wondering why your results and your career trajectory seem to live in 2 completely different universes, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is built for exactly this kind of conversation. I named the systems most workplaces would prefer to leave unspoken, walk you through how they actually function from the inside, and hand you the tools to navigate them with your eyes wide open. New videos drop regularly, and the next one is one you are going to want to be here for. Subscribe now, and I will see you in the next one.